Of course, new runs the daily news, the Squid Gazette, sport. Pretty big job. And wanted to get him in as early as we can. I think I met with him on the 29th, and I was very impressed. And you may not know it, but I don't impress very easy, but I'm certainly impressed with him. At that time, he had his head shaved. He didn't have a beard, but he's got blue eyes and has a bald head, so I know he's a good guy. Has to be a good guy. But now he's let his hair grow out. I'm not so sure about him. But that's the way it goes. But anyway, I would certainly like to thank him for being here today, and for all of you that are here to hear what he has to say, because I think it's important. And his predecessor, as you know, John Brewer, retired. John did a pretty good job where he was at. There was some problems that he had, but everybody's got problems, so we could probably live with it. My conversation with him done at the PDN, I found no problems whatsoever. So with that, I would like to turn the podium over to you. You've got up to 30 minutes if you want. Get questions and comments behind that. And then we'd like for you to stay for our business meeting. That only takes about 10 minutes. So that makes you short. Thank you.
Very good. Just so you know, I am recording myself talk, so you know, because I'm kind of narcissistic and I like to hear myself.
You're going to have to talk louder too.
How's this? Is this much better? I'm a newspaper man. I can talk really loud, so I'll kind of take it from there. So as we begin to talk today, one of the things that I always try to do is give you a little insight into what makes me tick. Because really that's what you want to know. You want to know whether or not this new publisher guy is on the right, on the left, am I straight and narrow? Will I shave my head sometimes and sometimes come out and surprise you and have a beard and a little bit of hair on my head? I will tell you, John Brewer, when it was announced I was coming to town, started getting phone calls from people in the community, and he relayed this to me. He said, Terry, people want to know, are you conservative? Are you liberal? What are you? And I'm going to tell you guys in this room today, I am anti-stupid. It does not matter whether or not a group is liberal, whether or not a group is conservative, whether or not a group has one belief system or another. If a policy or an idea is dumb, a policy or an idea is dumb. But I also know that dumb is in the eye of the beholder. One person may look at something and think, wow, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Another person may look and go, wow, that's a fantastic idea. I believe it's our job as a newspaper, local media, our job is to look at both sides of every issue and report down the middle. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay. You know, Colonel Roberts warned me that I was coming to a conservative group today. And I said, fantastic. Because I believe it takes a good discourse, a good discussion on all topics in order to make things work. He also told me that this group listens to both sides on a regular basis. And that's even better. So let me get down to the root a little bit about what makes Terry Ward, the newspaper publisher, tick. And then I'll give you a little background, a little history on myself. When my mother was pregnant with me, I'm the youngest of 4 children. You might have read a little bit about this in an article. I spoke to groups, but I always want to share this because it really lets you know who I am. When my mother was pregnant with me, I'm the youngest of 4 children. My dad died in a car accident. 6 months to the day before I was born. I was born on May 8th. He died November 8th the previous year. He had been out drinking with a cousin. The cousin jumped in the car, and they began to drive home, and he ran off the road and hit a tree and killed my father. Through other circumstances of not having insurance, my mother was young when she got married. You know, I'm from Oklahoma originally. Yay! Yay! As an Okie, my mom got married at a real young age. She got married at the age of 14. The first time. Remarried at the age of 16 to my dad. She had had an abusive relationship with her first husband. Didn't have insurance, didn't have an education, didn't have a good job. Other life circumstances happened, didn't have a good support system around her. We ended up homeless. We ended up traveling the country on the migrant worker. My brother is 8 years older than me. My two sisters are 6 years older than me and 4 years older than me. So imagine that group, a single mom with 4 young children from 8 to newborn. So we began traveling and picking fruit and vegetables and did this for years in California, Washington, Oregon, Florida, not Oregon, but Idaho. Wherever there was somewhere to go. She would leave and go ahead and leave us children by ourselves for days on end while she went down work, came back, got us, we moved. I went to, it's hard to keep track of the count, but approximately 3 dozen schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. I tell you that because it leads up to this story. When I was 4 years old, we were homeless, living in a tent in a state park in California. Christmas rolled around, we're in the tent, and the only reason we had a tent is because some campers had given it to us when they left because they saw that we had nothing because we were sleeping. Remember, you've seen those cement picnic tables? Yeah, I didn't even get one of the benches, I was underneath. Protected us from the rain. It helped. But we had a tent. And so as, sleep in this tent, Christmas rolled around, we knew we were not going to have a Christmas. My mom tried to soften the blow by telling us, kids, Santa Claus is not going to be able to find us because we don't have an address. We had no money. We were not dumb kids. Even at 4 years old, I was smart enough to understand that we didn't have anything. So Christmas morning rolled around, we went to bed Christmas Eve, Christmas morning rolled around. Being the youngest, any of you that have had children or grandchildren, you know the youngest in the family is always the first one to wake up in the morning and wants to wake everybody else up. Could be why I have bags under my eyes, because I have small children. So I woke up, 4 years old, I crawl outside the tent, and there's presents wrapped up for me and my family. The park rangers that year had gotten together and saw a family in need and decided to make sure we had a Christmas. Let me tell you why I tell that story and why that's so dear to me. I tell that story because everything I do resonates back to that moment. And some future moments that I'll talk about in a minute. So, I believe that it's our responsibility to help other people. It's the core of my Christian faith. It's the core of who I am and my being. It goes back to that day. Now, sometimes you may not remember who you helped. I honestly believe, and I don't know this for a fact, because I don't know who they are. I believe those park rangers, that was just something they did, and those families never gave it another thought moving forward. Maybe for a couple of weeks, oh, that was a nice thing, I'm glad we were able to help them. But all these years later, I don't think they're sitting in front of a room of people talking about what they did for my family. But I'm talking about it because it made a difference and impacted my life. I tell that story today especially because tomorrow in the Peninsula Daily News, we're kicking off the Home Fund for the 27th year. when John Brewer was filling me in on the home fund that predated him, and he picked it up, and now I'm picking it up. When he shared it with me, it resonated with me because of the people that it helps with small donations. Those people that get impacted, and you'll read the stories over the next couple of weeks, and you've read many of them over the years, no doubt. The people whose lives those donations affect will remember that for years. That $20 you give, that $50 you give, you might not remember it. It's just another, you know, it's a couple coffees at one of these coffee shacks in town. It's a nice lunch for you. But for them, it's going to impact their life because of what that money can do through other things. So I share that because, one, I wanted to give a little bit of a push today for the home fund that goes to Mom. But then I also want to talk about a little bit about making a difference in people's lives. And why I believe I'm in a very good position, in a very good career to do that. Fast forward a couple of years. I'm in high school. I'm a junior in high school. Having grown up homeless, all these different troubles, my brother, remember, who was 8 years older than me, he gets out of the Navy because he finally joins the Navy when he turns 18. We move around with him while he's in the Navy. That was my first exposure to Washington State, other than picking fruit over in the eastern part. We lived in Bremerton. He was stationed on a Trident submarine. I was in middle school. So he gets out of the Navy a couple years later. He goes back to our hometown in Chickasha, Oklahoma. Yay. And he goes and works at the local newspaper selling advertising. The newspaper publisher knew that my brother had a younger brother who probably wasn't the best of kids. You know, growing up the way I did, I probably pushed the envelope a lot. I definitely did things that, you know, looking back, I hope my children never do. We've all done that kind of too, right? Or never find out what I did. So this gentleman, a newspaper publisher, calls me up out of the blue one day and says, "Hi Terry, I'm Charlie Drew. I want to give you a job. I'm a junior in high school. I have no experience in anything." And he said he wanted to give me a job writing stories for the newspaper. And I said, "I think I'm an okay writer, but I don't know anything about writing for a newspaper. I made decent grades in school, so I mean English I was okay in." He said, "Don't worry, we'll train you, we'll teach you, I'll send you to some classes, we'll do what we need to do." So I would get up in the morning. At 6 a.m. I'd go into the office. I'd go to the police station, get public records. I'd come back and type them up. I'd go to school all day, and then after school I'd come back to the newspaper, and then I would maybe cover an 8-man football game. If you've never seen 8-man football, it's an exciting, fast-paced game because you have less people and it's not passing. Definitely is. So I'm in high school covering football in these little towns, Alex, Oklahoma, these small little communities, writing. I got to interview Barry Switzer, who was the Oklahoma football coach back in those days. That was a great moment. He was a very arrogant guy. I didn't like him much. I thought he was mean to me. But I was a young guy, and he was this icon. So this guy took me under his wing, this publisher, Charlie Drew, took me under his wing, taught me, sent me to school, got me started off in my career because he saw a young man who needed help, who needed a hand up in life. So he did that, and I started my career. Been at this pretty much ever since, except for a short stint when I went off to basic training. Came back, because it was just the guard that I was in. Came back to my community, and ended up working again, doing my weekend shifts, my 2 weeks a year, all of that. Left that a couple years later, and been in the newspaper business ever since. Started off as a reporter, I've been an editor, I've been a general manager of a newspaper, I've been a publisher, I've been a regional publisher for a much larger company than this. I was a regional sales and marketing guy for a nationwide media company with about 172 publications that I worked with. And then most recently, before coming here, I was a CEO of a media company of 22 newspapers, a direct mail company, 3 yellow page directories, and a digital marketing agency. Why did I leave that in the Midwest, Fort Wayne, Indiana, to come here? Have you looked outside? It's beautiful. I love Facebook. All of my friends back in the Midwest are posting snow pictures today because they're shoveling it. I post snow pictures it's because I'm looking up at it. It's a whole different lifestyle. Plus, I answered to a board of directors. It was a family-owned media company. Yeah, if you've never worked with a board of directors with a family-owned media company, it gets crazy because everybody has their opinion. And I was so far removed from the communities that we served that I missed this type of thing. I was working with individuals at papers, not working with the communities. So you get removed and you kind of start to think a little bit differently because all you're thinking about is that bottom line and not how it impacts the communities and the readers that you have. Make sense? Taking a toll, taking a stress, turning my hair gray, all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm glad when Sound Publishing asked me to come here. They have tried to get me up here for about 4 years in some capacity in Washington State. When they called me about the Olympic Peninsula, it made sense because I had no interest in going to be the publisher of the Seattle Weekly. There was no interest in that. I had no interest in running a group of nickel shoppers across the state of Washington and part of Oregon. But this, because of the communities here, because of the people here, and the wonderful outdoor environment, made a lot of sense for me. So, I shared all of those stories, and I share kind of that background because, one, I think it's important that you know that a lot of what I do is because I believe in local community journalism. I believe we make a difference in the communities that we serve. Notice I use the word serve because really the information and the news we provide is a service to the community. Now, we fund that through multiple sources. We fund it through advertising. We fund it through subscriptions. And I will tell you right off the bat, even though we serve the community, nothing drives me baddier than somebody who doesn't subscribe to our newspaper or never spends a penny with our newspaper, wants to sit back and do nothing but criticize our newspaper. What other business would sit and listen to somebody who never will spend a penny with them, but they want to come in and say your drapes are bad in your front window? Make sense? I realize there are reasons some people do not subscribe, and I want to address those reasons here. But I also know there are other reasons people don't subscribe. It's because they don't have a desire to read. They don't have a desire for that knowledge. They think that information should be free on the internet. And I will talk about that in the future as time goes on, or I'll answer some questions here in a minute, and we'll kind of see. So I wanted to give you the background, my background, who I am. One, because I want you to donate to the home fund if you have a few extra dollars this holiday season. I want you to realize that what we do, we believe is a service to this community, providing news and information. And I also believe that everything we do, we should be held accountable for. I like to get on Facebook, as I mentioned earlier. I also like it when somebody criticizes a newspaper on Facebook. And I can comment and go, hey, give me a call. I would like to talk about that with you. I did that twice last night. Because I think it's important that we are held accountable by the public that we serve, no different than an elected official is held accountable to the public that they serve. They get elected, we exist, but people will stop subscribing and people will stop spending their advertising dollars with us if, one, they're not getting the results from the advertising, and if, two, we start making boneheaded decisions. Do you agree with that? Now, I want to open it up to some questions.
All right. Got a question right in front of you.
I'm going all the way from national news, whether it be paper, TV, or whatever, bringing it all the way down. It has become kind of the norm that we hear about everything involved with big thing these national TVs and papers and stuff, all you read is the company line. Here in Port Angeles, now, I'll admit, I don't subscribe to your newspaper. But I do get around a lot, talk to a lot of people who do. And all I hear about is how our city government is running the city down by not doing what it takes to bring in and keep business, to assist people and businesses. And when I do sit down and read your newspaper, or my girlfriend tells me about what she read, all we hear about is what the city wants to do, the city this, the city that. But I don't hear anything about the fact that they're not doing what needs to be done. I don't hear controversy.
You want me to address that? Okay. Let me address that. One, I agree. I don't disagree with the word that you said. Let's talk about the national side of things. Absolutely, national news outlets often push an agenda. They do. I believe that there are media companies out there that are going down the wrong track. It's why when people talk about, and I hear it a lot, I go to dinner at my mother-in-law's and I'll hear, well, Terry, aren't newspapers dying? Have you heard that? You know what my answer is? No, bullcrap, they're not. Some newspapers are dying.
Seattle did.
Some newspapers, one in Seattle did. Some newspapers are dying. Not all. Are some automotive dealers out of business? Are some banks closed? Are some realtors not in existence anymore? Are some grocery stores closed? Go every category of business. And there are people that, for whatever reason, whether they were ran poorly or people stopped going there and shopping for whatever reason, that are out of business. Some of it are outside their control. Maybe Chrysler pulled the particular local dealership out because they went through bankruptcy. Whatever the situation, but nobody would say those industries are going away completely. But often we talk about newspapers are going away because you can get all your news on the internet. 64% of all links shared on Twitter and Facebook originate from a newspaper. 64%. So all those people that are getting news, if newspapers went away, what do you have? Now, let's take it on the local level. Absolutely. Oftentimes, we only tell that side of the story because that's the side we have. People love to talk in coffee shops. They love to talk in groups like this, but they don't want their name mentioned in the media. And we do not print speculation without a source. So if we have a source, we will report those things. And it has to be a credible source, not somebody that just happens to think and have no facts to back it up. We get criticized from time to time because of how we run our letters to the editor. I get conservative people that have called me since I came to town and said, you only print liberal letters to the editor. I get liberal folks that have called me and say, you only print conservative letters, you don't tell the other side of the story. I get pro-fluoride people that hate us and think we're anti-fluoride. I've got anti-fluoride people that think we're pro-fluoride. And that's okay. Hopefully that means we're doing a good job and we're down the middle. But we will mess up and we won't tell the whole story. Oftentimes the reason we can report what the city council's doing, what the mayor's doing, all the different folks and what they're doing is because they're the ones that will talk to us because we get that information in a public meeting because they have a meeting. But for instance, today there is a rally going on talking about the crime in Port Angeles. It's a citizen organized rally and we reported that rally was happening. And no doubt today as that's going on, I have a reporter out there who's going to report on the rally took place and what was said and all those kind of things talking about crime. We try to do those things. Oftentimes, we can only report and do what people are willing to share on the record with us. Now, On the flip side, we also have an opinion. And let me tell you a change moving forward that the newspaper is going to be making. Under my direction, we're going to be forming an editorial board. And we will be weighing in on local issues editorially. We are not going to endorse political candidates. We may tackle some issues, but hopefully through our editorial policies as we move down the road, we will begin on our opinion page, again, it's an opinion, we will begin to kind of talk about both sides of an issue and hopefully framework to further the dialogue in the community to make sure some of those type of things get addressed. But that does become an opinion piece, and I always form it as an opinion piece because it is an opinion, and oftentimes we have facts and things that we form that opinion with.
Dr. Speedy?
Thank you, Terry, for coming down today. You've answered a great number of my concerns and other concerns that are between the paper and I'll take up on the phone. I've got a couple of questions. One, do you pay AP to print their stuff, or do they pay you?
We pay AP.
Okay. And the next thing is, what are your top 3 goals for your publication network?
Top 3 goals, that's a good question. AP we pay, and we pay AP because it's a national service, and oftentimes we know that people want to hear national news. We also have, one of those national newspapers. We also get New York Times content. We also get Washington Post content, and we get Associated Press content. All of those contracts and agreements have been in existence for quite some time. I'm currently evaluating all of our news services and columnists and all of our freelancers that we use on a regular basis, so I can take a look at, are we presenting a good source?
Follow up on that. Does the New York Times reflect the values that we have in this community? Or is there another service that might do a better job?
That is why I'm looking at all of our services. I'm not going to come in here 2 months into the job and say I can for sure know what reflects this community's values. I'm asking questions, I'm meeting with people, I'm learning, but it would be irresponsible for me to say this reflects values or that reflects values, because I know my values and I know the values of the communities that I served in the Midwest, but I understand that each community is different, what's at the root of each community is different, and all of that. So the 3 goals. Number one is our digital media strategy is my number 1 goal. Our website is horrible. Horrible. We're going to redesign it. It's already in the works. We're already in the process. I've already seen a framework. That will come out in January or February. We're also going to redesign how we package the content in print at some point down the road. Because I believe that there are ways, I look at this group, and this represents core newspaper readers. Right? But there are other people that could be core newspaper readers. Part of my background, I've been able to do a lot of research on millennials, because I had a lot of millennials working for me in Indiana. And when you think about that age group, often we've said that younger folks don't read print media. They do if it interests them and you have multiple points of entry into the story. So how we package that, I will tell you, will be designed to hopefully pull some of those non-traditional newspaper readers in. But we also want to do it carefully so we don't alienate the core newspaper readers, because those are the folks that have been with us for years. But we also know if we want to continue to thrive into the future, we have to get more people reading the news and content. Second thing to my, and the reason I said the digital media is important, because right now if you combine our digital audience, online, social media, all the things we do, and our print audience, more people are reading the news and information that we produce now than at any other time in history for Peninsula Daily News. They're just reading in a different format. People think of newspapers as the print on paper. Newspapers are more. I call myself a media executive, not necessarily a newspaper publisher, because we are a multimedia company now with the many things that we do. So those are 2 of the goals. The third goal that I have for my group is to increase the excellence of what we do. That's a harder goal to accomplish. Because one, what identifies that excellence? It's making sure we're accurate, making sure that when my phone rings, I know for a fact I can stand behind the stories in our paper and I can stand behind our commentary pieces. The excellence. We make mistakes. We're gonna have typos, we're gonna have issues in the paper, of course. The difference between my mistakes and my team's mistakes and that local banker's mistakes, thousands of people see our mistakes, but yet everybody makes mistakes at their job. And our goal is to try to eliminate as many of those as possible and raise that excellence.
Mark, you had one?
In the past 20 years, I'm sure I've had more than 100 letters to the editor printed in the newspaper. When I go into a shop or something and identify myself in Port Angeles, typically the guy will say, "Oh, I've read your letters in the newspaper," and he goes, "Oh, but I don't dream up facts. I sometimes use facts in my letters, but I think John Brewer realized that I was helping him sell newspapers, and one reason I think that is when Michelle Malkin came to town a while back, I think in April or May, something like that. John called me and invited me down to the office to meet her. And I did go down there, and I met her, and one of your photographers took our picture together. I'm very proud. But I quit because I got sick and tired of having to argue with Paul Gottlieb about my facts.
Yes.
I'm 86 now, and it takes me longer to do things than it used to. And I got to cut out some things. And that was a constant aggravation to me whenever I sent in a letter. If Paul was managing the letters, he would disagree with something that I said. I think it was about last April or May, I wrote a letter in which I referred to a couple of things about Al Gore that has appeared in national publications, but I didn't save them, so I don't know exactly when or where. And he questioned this. Paul is a dedicated liberal, and he doesn't want to print anything in the newspaper that isn't dedicated liberal. That's my opinion. And I just said to hell with it. I'm not going to argue with him anymore. Now maybe things change, but that's where I am presently, and I've frequently walked into a store or something where I had to identify myself to buy something, and had the guy say, "Oh, I read your letters in the newspaper."
Can I address that?
And
Let me address the Paul issue.
yeah.
I believe sometimes in communication, like it is in life, it's not what is said, it's how it's delivered. One of the things that I'm very aware of, because you're not the first to bring that to my attention since coming to town, is sometimes when we're fact-checking letters to the editor, because we don't want to be Facebook, and we've all seen Facebook and social media where people post anything, whether it's true or not. In his desire to get the facts right, his bedside manner is very poor. And often, it's not, like I said, it's not what's being said, it's how it's delivered, and it comes across combative and argumentative and things along those lines. I've been listening, I've been watching, we've been having some internal dialogue on that. My job as a newspaper publisher is to coach my team to get better. So as I coach Paul and Leah and anybody else checking letters to the editor, we need to do a better job of communicating and articulating and being very respectful to folks like yourself who have taken the time and have the desire to have their voice heard in the pages of our newspaper. Now, I can't speak to facts in the past. I can't speak to how things were ran. It's easy for me to come into an organization and go, well, I would have done that differently, or I would have, but I wasn't involved in those circumstances, so all I can speak of is what we move forward with. Moving forward, here's how letters to the editor run. I want facts. I want to make sure that we're citing credible sources, but we need to do as much due diligence on our end to research those facts before we call and have that dialogue with you. Hopefully then you could say, well, these are the 3 locations, I didn't save them. In the digital age, we can find a lot of information. We will not, though, exclude things just because it disagrees with my personal opinion or Paul's personal opinion. But what we want to make sure is, one, we do those fact checking because, you know, we want to make sure that we're not being libelous in the pages of our newspaper, and we're not just throwing and slinging mud all over the place and being just hateful and hurtful when there aren't facts and things like that, or one of our reporters were involved in the story. But we want to make sure we do better. So my encouragement to everybody is, call me. If you feel browbeaten by someone on my staff, call me. And I'll be happy to listen to what you have to say, read the letter, and I've done that a couple times over the last couple of weeks, and we'll have that dialogue. Because, well, again, news is a judgment call. And oftentimes what one person looks at and goes, well, I wouldn't publish that, I might sit back and go, well, you know what, we really should. And so I'll weigh in. And I encourage anybody to pick up the phone and call me. I think I'm pretty good at communicating whether I have a bald head and beard or not. I think I'm pretty good at it. And I'll listen and I'll have that dialogue with you. So I encourage you to start writing again. Because it sounds like you've got a bunch of them in, you're well respected, and you have a good voice. We do not want to provide, we do not want to pull that voice away from the readers if they enjoy it. Fair?
Okay, you're up next.
Thank you. Jerry, I'd like to thank you for showing up today. There's a few minutes with Don, didn't think you could make it, but I'm reassured. Speaking of Paul, no, I'm not going to do that. You spoke a lot about homelessness and your experience in that area, and that caused me to think of the homeless population in Port Angeles. So my question is this. What amount of influence do you think casino gaming and marijuana have in the production of homeless people?
Great question. Wow. Great. It definitely, both of those can definitely lead to social instability. Okay? No different than alcohol can lead to social instability when it's abused. No different than fantasy football, with the gambling that is with the loopholes, can also lead to instability. I think people with addictive behaviors and addictive personalities can go down a path that's not good and lead, and it's a domino effect that leads to other ramifications down the road. I would say yes, it does, but I would say not in every situation it does. So I mean, like I said, I'm walking down the middle here because I think it's important that we say we can't do a sweeping answer for everything. But I do think that there need to be more resources put to solving those addictive behaviors. I think that the mental health issue of what we see needs to be addressed. And coming in and bringing my family to Port Angeles and seeing some of the homeless issues and seeing some of the things that you see, I'm not sure it's as widespread, again, a couple months on the ground, I'm not sure it's as widespread as we portray it to be, because all we're seeing is what's out there, right? But I see the same faces every day. It's not like I see a new set of faces standing on the street. Side note on that, one day, one of my sales reps came into the building, and we had a homeless guy, I think he was homeless, working right inside our door. If you've ever seen our door, we have an overhang. He's sitting there, he had a blanket, he's smoking. And they come in, there's a guy, I feel uncomfortable and all this. And so half the building was getting ready to rally the troops and go out there and kick this guy off or do it. I get up in my office, I walk out there, I sit down next to him. How are you doing today? Okay, blah, blah, blah. Seemed like a reasonable fellow. I said, hey, can you not smoke on my staff? People smell that. He goes, no problem. Gets up, walks off. It did not take me bringing 4 guys out there with me and telling this guy, get off our lawn. What it took is me sitting down and understanding that. I think that any problem, if you communicate appropriately, can be solved. And I think some of those issues you bring up, I think can be solved with the right dialogue and the right people at the table and how that works. And again, who those people are, I'm 2 months on the ground.
Dr. Spees?
This is going back to Paul Gottlieb. I've spent many hours with him over the last few years, which I would have rather spent elsewhere. What I found out about Paul is he's one of the best writers on your staff. And Paul is also very, very bright. But when I have an opinion, I want to be able to express my opinion. My name is at the bottom of the thing, not his. And if I get my facts wrong, that's on me instead of your paper. And I would like Colonel Roberts to go back to writing letters because I know that he stopped because of what is going on in the past. And you've addressed the issue, and you know, I hate to dump on you, but it's one of those things.
Dump away.
We have a new
That's what I mean.
Sir?
Dump away. That's what I mean. Let me address that though for a second. I disagree with you. And I disagree with the fact that although your name is at the bottom of that, I'm the one that's going to get the phone call if the facts are wrong in your letter to the editor, because my name's the one undersigned as the publisher of this newspaper. So that's why I want to make sure the facts are correct. Because we have a duty to our readers not to allow people to have a voice to mislead people. And we've all seen it. We see it on the national scale all the time, whether it's the Democrat debates or the Republican debates. Both sides lie. Would you agree? Yeah.
But using your argument, facts can be interpreted both ways. You can look at a set of facts, and depending on your viewpoint, you could interpret it this way, or you could interpret it that way.
That's the key, and that's what I was about to say. Facts are not 2 different directions. Interpretation of the facts are 2 different directions. Facts are facts are facts. And what we try to do is we try to look at the fact. For example, if you write a letter to the editor and said, Obama said XYZ. Obama is quoted everywhere, so there should be a reliable source that we can find that quote that Obama said. Right?
Right.
But if you say Obama said blah, 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 and it's not an exact quote, that's a paraphrasing of his quote, and that's not a fact. That's a paraphrase. Okay. And so that's the difference. I mean, does that make sense to everybody? It's the interpretation. We want to make sure that it's an accurate interpretation of the facts, and we want to make sure that the quote's there. Then the framework of what you say around that quote's up to you. But if you say somebody said this, or I saw Obama with a book and this, when, you know, he was reading out of the Quran, guess what? You didn't have lunch with Obama more than likely. Somebody has a photo of that or a video of that we can find to verify that fact. Does that make sense? Okay.
Jim, you were...
I'm a commissioner at Olympic Medical Center, and I will echo just on Paul Gottlieb that there is a lot of negative aspects to him and his writing, especially for some personal interests by the publisher, former publisher, and he became a watchdog, attack dog, should I say. It's not really good for the community for any situations in that kind of a capacity in a small town. Enough said with that. The one really positive thing I got to say, and I do read your paper, is I love Pat Neal. He makes me laugh, and he tells the truth in so many ways about things that are going wrong with our government of getting too big. He is just fantastic. So kudos, and I hope you keep him on, please.
Good feedback. No.
Some months ago, a group or a bunch of individuals. Some months ago, a bunch of individuals tried to modify your editorials by trying to get the paper to eliminate one of the editorials that they didn't like. That was very respectful of First Amendment rights, of course. But anyway, I would hope that the paper continues to keep both sides, liberal and conservative, represented, and keep pretty much the ones you've got. I like to read them all. I want to read the ones that I like, and I want to read the other ones so I can see what ridiculous things they have to say. Basically. But no, I get good out of all of them.
That's good. I will tell you, I'm reviewing those just like everything else. There may be some that I think that there's a stronger conservative voice that might make more sense than the one of them we have, and there might be one that I think is a different liberal voice that's stronger on that side that might make sense. I'm looking at those, doesn't mean I'm going to change them. It just means that I'm evaluating everything. Coming in and being a new guy, I can play stupid. I can ask a lot of questions, both internally and in the community, that maybe other people should already know, but I don't have that luxury of knowing. So I'm looking at that. I'm aware of that situation because somebody emailed me about that situation. Because they reached out to me and let me know that somebody, there was a push to get rid of a columnist. Again, there's one page of the paper that I believe I supremely control. And that's our commentary page. Because I'm the one that's going to have to stand in a meeting like this and just get flogged by people if we're doing the wrong thing. Now, the news is, I have a news team. I'm not going to read every news story before it ends up in the paper. I'm not. I have an editor that I'm hired to do that. If I've got to do everybody on my team's job for them, I don't need them. I'm a one-man show. So I believe we hire good people and we empower them to do what they need to do. With the commentary page, I look at every commentary page before it comes out. And I have to do that because I want to make sure that it represents what I want our newspaper to represent.
One more thought. In so many newspapers around the country, they have abandoned what I think was the original thoughts about newspaper work. One, you have an editorial page, 4 pages, and then you have a reporting page. And so many of them have made the reporting pages editorial pages. They'll take something that happens and they only report half the truth.
And we get accused of that.
You got a complaint?
I'm a subscriber. And talking about political bias, I guess, in the comics, I really object to Trudeau. Doonesbury, very political, and I don't think it applies to the comic page.
I will tell you, there's only been 2 times that I've almost been lynched in a community. One was I started changing comic strips. I got rid of one, and I would have thought it was ridiculous. The other one is I had an editor that published something that people viewed as racist, and it was in one of my newspapers that I had in Florida, in Louisiana, and I was down there filling in because we were without a publisher, and that had published a while back. All of a sudden, outside my office is a protest going on, and same thing I did with the homeless guy. I get up from my chair and I walk out there and invite 15 people in, and we had dialogue. 20 minutes later, they were gone because they just wanted their voice heard. But that doesn't scare me half as bad as getting rid of cartoons. Because people get set on those, especially if one of them happens to be a serial type cartoon that continues on. So that's something I'll walk probably most carefully on because I want to make sure that I can survive with something.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you for coming, and we hope you like Peninsula.
I will. I've got here locally. I've got a wife and 3 small children: a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I say locally because I have a total of 8 children. I'm on my 2nd marriage. I have 4 grown children. One just turned 21 last week. I got a chance to. He's stationed in the Army. He's an infantryman. He's out in a couple months, and he's and I had an opportunity to fly out and spend his 21st birthday with him. He wanted his dad to spend his 21st birthday. So I've got a 22-year-old all the way down to a 1-year-old. And so here locally, we've got one in first grade, one in preschool, and then one that just keeps us, the 18 months that keeps us up at night.
What about your siblings?
My siblings, my brother he works for the state of Oklahoma doing creative design and graphics for them. I have a sister who's a paralegal in Phoenix and a sister who's a CPA in a town near St. Louis.
I wanted to know what's been said about the letters to the editor, turmoil and controversy and people's frustrations. I went through that too, gave up, spoke again, gave up again. I think there's missed opportunity for readership. There's such a small space allowed to letters, and there's a lot of frustrated people here in this community, everywhere in the world. They'd like to be able to say what they think and have a place to put it. So one of the frustrations is not being able to write but once a month is the time frequency. So if there was a little bit more frequency, the person could put something in and have bigger space for the comments to be made. You get people wanting to look at the paper just for that, see what everybody thinks or somebody else is thinking, sharing their thoughts or making an opportunity to counter something that's been said. So if there's any way to make more room for that, but like I said, it should increase readership just for somebody tuning in, so to speak, to see what somebody else is saying.
Both good points. One, I will tell you that absolutely amount of space we allow for our commentary, whether it's letters to editor or whatever, because we get a lot of them and we have to put some of them on several days. Okay. But there's also been a period in the past where I believe they went through a drought where they weren't getting a lot of letters. Maybe it's because of what you're talking about today. And so they weren't getting as many letters, so they condensed it. Now, the frequency someone can publish, that's where I'm a little more iffy. And I'll tell you my belief on that. You might write 2 of them. Somebody over here is going to try to get one in every single day. So we have to kind of do that. I think that before my time here, it was chosen once a month. I also get complaints about how long the letters can be and how many words you can include. We have to draw the line somewhere so we get more voices heard. We don't, we don't want people writing a 60-inch letter to the editor that nobody's going to read halfway through and they're just droning on about the same dribble. So we have to try to get people to be short and concise.
A lot of times I only see 2 letters in the whole paper, but I know there's got to be more people trying to get in.
Yeah, there is. There's a backlog.
Another thing I was frustrated with, a lot of times the title somebody puts to their letter to the editor, there's a lot of thought to that. And then more times than not, it's changed. What is that?
It does, respect. Our reporters' headlines get changed from one word. Some, I can't speak to what you're talking about, again, but I've seen where some 1-word or 2-word titles are very inflammatory. Those are going to be changed. Also, based on, we try to keep the topic based. I hate some of the headlines we use on letters today. There was one that I made them change it because that doesn't represent the letter that I just read. It happened, but keep in mind, we operate on deadline, we operate with a lot of content, a lot of words every night, and the beauty that I tell my team is, we're not going to get it right every day. Guess what we can do? We got another paper tomorrow. Maybe we can do better tomorrow than we did today. And mistakes are going to happen. People are going to be upset. It's good to hear that people are reading the newspaper. I do want to throw this out today. If you reach out to me, if you're not a subscriber, and you want to give us a shot, I'll give you a month for free. Just contact me personally if you're not a subscriber. Because I want you to check out what we're doing now. You might have quit when John Brewer was here or whoever. Give me a shot. I'm the new guy. I don't know any better. Let me make my own history. Reach out to me and I'll give you a free call.
Just real quick, some of the reporting in the past is also swayed elections because of the way the information was presented. Didn't give the opponent, each opponent, gave the wrong perspective, anyway, swayed elections. So that has to be carefully monitored also.
Funny, I worked in a community as a publisher one time, and I had, because I'm a very outspoken person, I'm very direct, and hopefully you'll find my directness engaging and appealing, and not obvious. But I tend to share a lot with my mind, and I had a group of folks that were trying to draft me to run for mayor of that local community, that mayor's elected. I wouldn't do it, and the reason I wouldn't do it is because I believe we have a lot of influence. I can affect change better as a publisher of a newspaper than I could as an elected official. And it's a duty that I find very heavy on my shoulders. So hopefully moving forward, we won't try to sway elections. It's why I won't endorse political candidates. It's why I'll sit down with any political candidate and give them a fair shake and dialogue. A couple things, you talk about the digital perspective, and some of you in the room might appreciate this. One of the things we will be launching, very similar to what we're doing, I believe there's a push for a local public access channel, and I'm in favor of that. I think it's very positive. But one thing we will be doing is I'll be sitting down with elected officials in the near future, and I'll be doing some interviewing them to give them an opportunity, candidates and elected officials, to kind of an interview type style that we'll post on our website. And we'll be happy to partner with any other group that wants to feed into that and have an input in that. But those are things that I've done in my past, and we'll continue to do those things because I believe that both sides need to be. And sometimes we discount candidates just by human nature because we think they don't know the facts, they don't know things, but let's give them a chance to either show people they know the facts or not show people the facts. Let their voice be heard.
And sometimes just the quantity of information sways people. Unknowing to the paper, created abundance on one side, but the other side had the checks.
Fair. Sometimes that's how we're approached though, and it's the information that's available. Some people are more of a marketing PR machine for themselves when they're running for office. Other people stumble across themselves. And the people who are good at doing what they do sometimes get hurt a little bit more because they're more active in doing things. Is that the right way to do it? No, but I'm not going to also sit down and measure words in inches to make sure we give everybody their fair share. We're going to cover things as they come up. But if you have any more thoughts like that, I'd love for you to come in and sit down with me in my office and let's sit down and talk through, because I'd love to make sure that we're addressing all of those kind of concerns. Because what I don't want to do is it's not my job to influence that election unfairly.
Anybody else have a bite? Right, we happen to have a couple of VIPs in here that joined us, and one of them is the Director of Community Development, and her husband right behind her, and I would like to ask her if she has any comments she'd like. Put you on the spot.
No. So you were late, Terry. I was your backup. I was like, yes, you came in.
I had a voicemail that said no. That's all I'm saying.
So, well, I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody. As you
Okay, nothing, you don't comment. Joel, you have anything? You always got something to say.
Yeah, but most people don't want to hear it. No, I appreciate the opportunity every time I get the chance to come to one of these, and I really enjoyed your presentation.
You know, I want to comment on the two people that just talked to us. The DCD is probably one of the most important people in our county government. She can approve or disapprove anything that you want to do with your property. And so I think that we are blessed to have somebody that understands the position that the property owner is in when he wants to put a tool shed or something in. And I think we are really blessed when we have our county fair, because the guy that sets it up and runs it is right there. And I think our guest speaker needs really a big guest. We've agreed to stay for a while and do our business meeting. And so we're not stealing any of your thunder someplace else.
For the record, I did turn off my recorders.
Okay. All right. I think that let's get into the national level, which is the next thing on the agenda. And I've got a concern. Obama administration, and when I say administration, I am talking about the people that he appointed to different jobs and they accepted. Talking about the terrorists. You know what it is? It is really a guerrilla war. Terrorism is a part of guerrilla war. And we are into a guerrilla war. I don't care how you look at it. Any way you look at it, that is what it is. And as I said, terrorism is just a piece of it. So it's a lot bigger than you think it is. Someday when we got somebody that don't show up, I'd like to talk to you. That don't happen very often, but when it does happen, I want to talk to you about guerrilla warfare. And I would like to talk to you about guerrilla warfare in World War II, because most of the press doesn't really bring it up, but it was an important part of World War II. Then I want to talk to you about guerrilla warfare in Korea. Again, you're going to say, what guerrilla war? I'll tell you when we get the chance to talk to you. Then we go to Vietnam. You talked about the classic guerrilla war. That was it. My first tour there was a year before the U.S. troops come into the parade. So I was an advisor. I lived with the Vietnamese. I ate their food. I got some TB dysentery and every other kind of disease you could get, including a tapeworm. So you must have ate their food. And I learned their language. And I didn't tell many people that I could understand what they were talking about. My vocabulary was limited to probably 400 words. But if you can speak 400 words, you're in business. And you sit there and listen to what they are saying, and they don't know you can understand what they're saying. Very interesting. So I would like to talk to you on that someday. Maybe we don't have a VIP show up or something like that. And if you agree, raise your hand. If you don't,
schedule yourself.
I didn't expect that.
Schedule it.
So anyway, that's in reserve if we ever need it. I think that it will enlighten your view of history.
We probably can have the press cover it too.
The press coming.
Oh, yeah, we'll invite the press. Good point. Okay, so much for that. Let's get into our staff reports. And at the, let me get the state level. Again, there's no changes. We changed governors, but we still got a king to replace a queen. I think I've said that before. And the fact that he supports a pay as the bill, as taxes are income, I think that's about enough that we can say. So at the local level, our newly elected officials, let's give them some time to get into their jobs. And that the DCD is probably one of the most important jobs, and it really affects everything you do with your property. And I mentioned that lock it up back here. And we need somebody who is a bright person, understands the need for both control and the private use of private property. I think those are the two key things that we need the person to understand that's in that position. And you do, and we appreciate it. So we look forward to seeing. Okay, let's get into our reports, staff reports. Joel Winmore, do you happen to have something?
No, not really.
Surprised you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. That would warm me up. I didn't get the memo.
Okay. I think that was just a trick I pulled on him, but anyway. Anything from the floor? Well, let me get the rest of the reports in. How about the exchequer? How about that?
Honest, how do you do what you want?
Yeah. How much we got?
$448.11 in the bottom.
Well, that's good. I don't know. Has the funds he's saying the same. That's good. Larry Wiseman, you got something?
No.
Okay. Marv?
Already shut my mouth off.
Okay. Jerry? Rotella?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I do, but I don't say that.
Okay. Is there anything from the floor?
Where do things stand with the shooting range?
Pardon?
Where does things stand with the range?
Well, I'm looking at a guy that's real key to it, and he's sitting right there by our director of community development.
I'll tell you briefly what I know. And Terry, for your information, I'm the director of the Parks, Fair and Facilities Department of the county. And I've been working with Don and actually several people in here for a long time, trying to get a shooting range constructed. What I can tell you at this point is that my most recent budget meeting, the 2016 budget meeting with the commission a few weeks ago, I was asked to increase the amount of money we have in our capital project line for construction of the shooting range, not construction, but for permitting and for an EIS, environmental impact statement, to put forward with that, which I did. The board, as it stands now, is interested in pursuing that in 2016. With changes on the board next year, I don't know where the shooting range project is going to fall into some priorities. We'll just have to wait and see about that. But I also contacted the DNR, and the DNR is still interested in working with the county on transferring and reconveying that property to the county for the construction of the shooting range. So really, that's all I know at this point.
That brings up what we got in the kitty, that is, our organization has in the kitty for support of the range, and it's $40,000 either way, plus a bit. You got an exact figure?
Actually, it's 38.
38,000, so down 2,000.
Well, our gun shows have become 50% as productive as they were before the new law went into effect. Our net return from gun shows is down about 50%.
All right. Anybody else have any comments on the range or anything?
Couple things. Don't forget, Friday is the last day to vote on fluoride, whichever way you're leaning. Just get your vote in. And the second thing I just want to remind people about is there's a community-wide Thanksgiving that this community does every year. It's for the public. It's not just for the homeless. And it's held at the Catholic Church, not sponsored by the Catholic Church. It's from 11:30 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. Lots of people come with their families. They enjoy all the goodies. It's it's plated. It's you have a nice setup, and it's just beautifully decorated. Unbelievable. Over 800 people last year. So come mid-afternoon, I would say, if you don't like a big crowd.
Is it Queen of Angels?
Exactly, Queen of Angels. And it's fantastic. And everybody gets a present. It's free. It's utterly free. So I'm going to cover it with Clallam Public Eye this year so they can use it as promotional material next year, but certainly come and enjoy yourself. And please remember to go to Clallam Public Eye at YouTube and subscribe, because I'm not going to send out emails anymore to people. So just if you would like to get the videos, you'll get a message from YouTube that says there's a new video posted. If you want to look at it, great. Thank you.
Anything else from the floor?
Previous meetings, DNR was brought up, having to do with property reconveying. Joel reminded me of that, in tying in with logging. Anything new with whatever was discussed? Remember what was discussed before? The DNR was holding up some things.
Well, what is really, the basic problem is that we, and when I say we, I mean the county, has to have the property. That's number one. And when that is accomplished, then we can proceed with everything else. But until that one fact shows up, we're pretty much in limbo. But we will continue to work the range project. Right in front of my desk, I've got a plaque, and it shows a blue heron with a bullfrog in his mouth. And he was reaching out and then he grabs the neck of the blue heron and he shuts off everything. And the caption below it is "Never give up." I don't think I have ever given up on anything, if you're concerned about me stopping, because I'm not. And here's the staff, it's still there. We just need to kick it in gear.
I can help on that. The Trust Lands Advisory, I don't know if that's the exact name, committee has been formed. They will, they've all been appointed, accepted their positions. They will have an initial meeting and then decide on what their meetings are going to be. And they will look into this whole thing. I hope to videotape those so they'll be online when those meetings start.
By the way, I would like to have an appointment with our guest speaker on the range, because it would take me about 20 to 30 minutes to tell you all about it. And I think somebody from the outside coming in will say, "My gosh, really?" And that's one of the reasons that we would like to brief you, and Larry, I can probably, so we won't take up too much of your time. But I'll call you on that. Somebody else moved it, had their hand up. Okay. The next meeting is on the 19th of December, right here, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you. We'll be advising you who the speaker will be as soon as I make the phone calls. I'll tell you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you for being here, and let's have a big dance for our speaker.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And he ran off the road and hit a tree and killed my father. Through other circumstances of not having insurance, my mother was young when she got married. You know, I'm from Oklahoma originally. Yay! Yay! As an Okie, my mom got married at a real young age. She got married at the age of 14. The first time. Remarried at the age of 16 to my dad. She had had an abusive relationship with her first husband. Didn't have insurance, didn't have an education, didn't have a good job. Other life circumstances happened, didn't have a good support system around her. We ended up homeless. We ended up traveling the country on the migrant worker. My brother is 8 years older than me. My two sisters are 6 years older than me and 4 years older than me. So imagine that group, a single mom with 4 young children from 8 to newborn. So we began traveling and picking fruit and vegetables and did this for years in California, Washington, Oregon, Florida, not Oregon, but Idaho. Wherever there was somewhere to go. She would leave and go ahead and leave us children by ourselves for days on end while she went down work, came back, got us, we moved. I went to, of course, new runs the Daily News, the Squid Gazette, Forum. Pretty big job. And wanted to get him in as early as we can. I think I met with him on the 29th, and I was very impressed. And you may not know it, but I don't impress very easy, but I'm certainly impressed with him. At that time, he had his head shaved. He didn't have a beard, but he's got blue eyes and has a bald head, so I know he's a good guy. Has to be a good guy. But now he's letting his hair grow out. I'm not so sure about him. But that's the way it goes. But anyway, I would certainly like to thank him for being here today, and for all of you that are here to hear what he has to say, because I think it's important. And his predecessor, as you know, John Brewer, retired. John did a pretty good job where he was at. There was some problems that he had, but everybody's got problems, so we could probably live with it. My conversation with him done at the PDN, I found no problems whatsoever. So with that, I would like to turn the podium over to you. You've got up to 30 minutes if you want. Any questions, comments behind that, and then
we'd like for you to say for our business meeting. That only take about 10 minutes, so that makes you short. Thank you.
Very good. Just so you know, I am recording myself talk, so you know, because I'm kind of narcissistic and I like to hear myself.
You're gonna have to talk louder too.
How's this? Is this much better? I'm a newspaper man. I can talk really loud, so I'll kind of take it from there. So as we begin to talk today, one of the things that I always try to do is give you a little insight into what makes me tick. Because really that's what you want to know. You want to know whether or not this new publisher guy is on the right, on the left, am I straight and narrow? Will I shave my head sometimes and sometimes come out and surprise you and have a beard and a little bit of hair on my head? I will tell you, John Burr, when it was announced I was coming to town, started getting phone calls from people in the community. He relayed this to me. He said, Terry, people want to know, are you conservative? Are you liberal? What are you? And I'm going to tell you guys in this room today, I am anti-stupid. It does not matter whether or not a group is liberal, whether or not a group is conservative, whether or not a group has one belief system or another. If a policy or an idea is dumb, a policy or an idea is dumb. But I also know that dumb is in the eye of the beholder. One person may look at something and think, wow, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Another person may look and go, wow, that's a fantastic idea. I believe it's our job as a newspaper, local media, our job is to look at both sides of every issue and report down the middle. Is that fair? Okay. You know, Colonel Roberts warned me that I was coming to a conservative group today. And I said, fantastic. Because I believe it takes a good discourse, a good discussion on all topics in order to make things work. He also told me that this group listens to both sides on a regular basis. And that's even better. So let me get down to the root a little bit about what makes Terry Ward, the newspaper publisher, tick. And then I'll give you a little background, a little history on myself. When my mother was pregnant with me, I'm the youngest of 4 children. You might have read a little bit about this in an article. I spoke to groups, but I always want to share this because it really lets you know who I am. When my mother was pregnant with me, I'm the youngest of 4 children. My dad died in a car accident. 6 months to the day before I was born. I was born on May 8th. He died November 8th the previous year. He had been out drinking with a cousin. The cousin jumped in the car and they began to drive home. It's hard to keep track of the count, but approximately 3 dozen schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. I tell you that because it leads up to this story. When I was 4 years old, we were homeless, living in a tent in a state park in California. Christmas rolled around, we're in the tent, and the only reason we had a tent is because some campers had given it to us when they left because they saw that we had nothing because we were sleeping. Remember, you've seen those cement picnic tables? Yeah, I didn't even get one of the benches, I was underneath. Protected us from the rain a little bit. It helped. But we had a tent, and so as, you know, sleep in the tent, Christmas rolled around, we knew we were not going to have a Christmas. My mom tried to soften the blow by telling us, kids, Santa Claus is not going to be able to find us because we don't have an address. We had no money. We were not dumb kids. Even at 4 years old, I was smart enough to understand that we didn't have anything. So Christmas morning rolled around, you know, we went to bed Christmas Eve, Christmas morning rolled around. Being the youngest, you know, any of you that have had children or grandchildren, you know the youngest in the family is always the first one to wake up in the morning and wants to wake everybody else up. Could be why I have bags under my eyes, because I have small children. So I woke up, 4 years old, I crawl outside the tent.